Genesis 2:19 mentions the man by name for the first time, Adam. So for all you Adams out there, your name was the very first. Genesis 2 then goes on to tell of God having Adam name all the animals, and a more in-depth description of the creation of women.
And Jehovah God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a help meet for him." And out of the ground Jehovah God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them unto the man to see what he would call them. And whatsoever the man called every living creature, that was the name thereof. And the man gave names to all cattle, and to the birds of the heavens, and to every beast of the field. But for man there was not found a help meet for him. And Jehovah God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Jehovah God had taken from the man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man.
Adam was very pleased with the first woman. He was the first man to be excited about a hot chick. And women should always be flattered by this. Paradise was not enough. Animals were not enough. It would take the female sex to make this new perfect world complete. "This is it," Adam exclaimed. "She is part of my own bone and flesh." Her name is woman because she was taken out of a man. This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife in such a way that the two become one person. Jesus would later mention this in the Gospel of Matthew. And although Adam and Eve were both naked, neither of them was embarrassed or ashamed. But the perfect world would not last. And then came the serpent, the first known villain in history. He was Lucifer, an angel who, at some time, decided to rebel against God. And he chose to come to Eve in the form of a serpent. We're not sure what the serpent looked like. He would later be cursed to crawl on his belly, so we know he didn't start off as a snake, though paintings and illustrations through the years like to present him in that way.
The serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree in the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die.
At that point, things sounded good. Eve answered as she should have. But at this crucial moment in history, the serpent wasn't going to give up that easily. That's a lie, the serpent hissed. You'll not die. God knows very well that the instant you eat it, you will become like Him, for your eyes will be opened. You will be able to distinguish good from evil. The fruit of the tree would forever be called the forbidden fruit, an illustration of the desire to have what we're told we can't have. The tempting of Eve in the garden is one of the Bible's most famous moments. And, unfortunately, the serpent's lie worked. She was convinced. How lovely and fresh-looking the fruit was. And it would make her so wise. What could possibly go wrong? Roughly 4,000 years later, the Apostle John wrote, For all that is in the world, The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life is not of the Father, but of the world. And it all began here. Eve's desire for the fruit was the lust of the flesh. To possess it was the lust of the eyes, and the thought of becoming wise was the pride of life. So she ate some of the fruit and gave some to her husband, and he ate it too. We don't know exactly what kind of fruit it was, but pop culture likes to say it was an apple. Eve gave into temptation, and Adam went right along with it. And as they ate it, suddenly they became aware of their nakedness and were embarrassed. So they strung fig leaves together to cover themselves around the hips. They heard the Lord coming and tried to hide from him. Hiding from the all-knowing God. How on earth do you pull that off?
And they heard the voice of Jehovah God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Jehovah God amongst the trees of the garden. And Jehovah God called unto the man and said unto him, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree whereof I commanded thee that thou shouldest not eat? And the man said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat.
Adam blamed Eve for giving him the fruit, and blamed God for giving him a woman who would give him the fruit. And the art of finger-pointing began. Then the Lord God asked the woman, How could you do such a thing? The serpent tricked me, she replied. So the Lord God said to the serpent, This is your punishment. You are singled out from among all the domestic and wild animals of the whole earth, to be cursed. You shall grovel on the dust as long as you live, crawling along on your belly. From now on, you and the woman will be enemies, as will your offspring and hers. You will strike his heel, but he will crush your head. Ladies, that's why you are so terrified by snakes to this day. Then the Lord went on to give the punishment for Adam and Eve, a punishment that would affect all mankind until the end of the age.
Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake. In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns also and thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return.
So whatever problems you have at work, these are the thistles and thorns that the Lord spoke of in the garden so long ago. And for pregnant women, this is why childbirth and the months leading up to it can be so painful. A pain that men can never understand. In Genesis 3, Eve is officially named by Adam, the name meaning the life-giving one. For Adam said, She will be the mother of all mankind. And the name Eve became the first female name. And the Lord God clothed them with garments made from the skins of animals. Then the Lord said, "Now that man has become as we are, knowing good from bad, he must not be allowed to eat from the tree of life and live forever." So the Lord God banished him from the Garden of Eden and sent him out to farm the ground from which he had been taken. Thus God expelled him and placed mighty angels at the east of the Garden of Eden, with a flaming sword to guard the entrance to the tree of life. The angels with flaming swords were a painful reminder of what Adam and Eve and the rest of mankind had lost out on, due to the breaking of this one simple rule. So now, in a world tainted by sin, Adam and Eve would begin the first family.
And the man knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, "I have gotten a man with the help of Jehovah." And again she bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto Jehovah. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And Jehovah had respect unto Abel, and to his offering, but unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect.
The Bible doesn't tell us what was right with Abel's offering and what went wrong with Cain's. But God is a fair God, so Cain must have presented his offering in a careless or disobedient way. Whatever he did, the Lord's rejection made Cain both dejected and very angry, and his face grew dark with fury. "Why are you so angry?" the Lord asked him. "Why is your face so dark with rage? It can be bright with joy if you will do what you should. But if you refuse to obey, watch out. Sin is waiting to attack you, longing to destroy you, but you can conquer it." God made it clear that if Cain would just be obedient, he'd be a happy fellow. Instead, his anger led to the first murder in history.